When my wife said she needed distance, I thought she meant from the marriage.
When my wife said she needed distance, I didn't realize she meant from me as a person, not just the marriage. We were in that narrow hallway between the kitchen and living room, the place where fights usually started but never seemed to end. She was scrolling on her phone while she said it, which should have been my first clue. "I just feel suffocated," she said. "I need room to breathe." I waited for her to look up, but she never did. I was 51 years old. I'd spent my whole career as a warehouse supervisor, fixing other people's problems quietly, showing up early and staying late. I brought that same attitude home, thinking that just being consistent was enough to be loved. "How much room?" I asked. She sighed like I was missing the point. "I don't know. Just space." That night I slept on the couch. 2 nights later I booked a one-way flight. I wasn't angry. I left because her voice told me the decision was already made. My only job was to orbit politely until I faded away. I packed my clothes, my documents, and the watch my dad gave me. Everything else stayed behind, including the version of me that was always waiting to be chosen. I moved 3 states away to a tiny town you could barely find on a map. My apartment was basic, the kind where the walls echo until you fill them with a routine. I transferred with my company, took the night shift, and just kept my head down. I didn't call anyone, I didn't post online, I let myself disappear. For the first time in years, nobody expected anything from me. 3 months later, my phone rang, an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to pick it up. It was a lawyer. He asked if I was sitting down. My Aunt Eleanor had passed away. She had no kids, no husband. I was the only relative who had kept in touch. She left me her house, her savings, and the small logistics company she'd built from the ground up. The total was just over $900,000. I thanked the lawyer, hung up, and just sat there on my bed in that quiet apartment, letting it all sink in. Money doesn't change who you are, but it definitely clarifies who other people think you should be. I didn't tell a soul. I put most of it into a trust and kept working my night shift. I didn't buy anything flashy. Instead, I rented a small house with a garage and started fixing up old motorcycles on the weekends, a passion I'd let go of when life got crowded. Then she found out, I don't know how. Maybe a forwarded letter, maybe she got curious. One evening, her name popped up on my phone for the first time in months. I didn't answer. She called again. And again. Then a voicemail came through, her voice suddenly warm, almost nostalgic. "I heard about your aunt. I'm so sorry." "We should talk?" I blocked the number. 2 weeks later, my phone rang while I was making dinner. A woman's voice answered when I picked up. "This is Emily," she said calmly. "He doesn't take calls from this number." I could hear shouting on the other end before the line went dead. Emily was standing in my kitchen holding a cutting board, completely unbothered. We'd met at a community class. The quiet between us was never awkward. She had moved into my life slowly, carefully, not trying to replace anyone. "She sounded upset," Emily said. I replied, "She always does when she wants something." The next morning, a message from an unknown number. My wife, technically still my wife, had clipped a guardrail on the highway looking for me. She wasn't seriously hurt, just shaken. I read the message and deleted it. Emily watched me from across the table. "Do you feel guilty?" I thought about it. "No," I said. "I feel finished." She showed up 2 days later. I was in the garage and heard the gravel crunch under her tires. I took my time. When I came out, she was standing there, thinner than I remembered, her eyes sharp with calculation disguised as desperation. "We need to talk," she said. "No," I replied. "You need to talk. I'm listening," she apologized. She cried. And then she mentioned the inheritance. That's when it all clicked. "You didn't want space," I said quietly. "You wanted leverage." She denied it too quickly, then switched tactics. She talked about our history, about second chances, about how the money could help us start over. Emily stood right beside me, silent, present, exactly where she chose to be. "This is my life now," I said. "You asked for distance." I respected that. "What you don't get to do is decide when it expires." Her face hardened. "You owe me," I smiled, but not kindly. "No, I owed you honesty and effort. I gave you both." What you owed me was respect. She left without another word. The divorce papers arrived a few weeks later. It was straightforward, uneventful. A year passed. The house filled with plants, tools, and laughter that didn't feel like noise. Emily and I built a life that felt chosen, not inherited. Sometimes I think about that hallway conversation and how close I came to shrinking myself again just to keep the peace. Some people think walking away is giving up. They don't understand that sometimes it's the first decision you ever make entirely for yourself. She wanted space. I gave it to her. And in that space, I built a life that no longer needed anyone's permission. Thanks for watching.